In the endless darkness of space, the year 2287 marked another moment of expansion for the unstoppable Cabaxian Empire. Across three spiral arms of the galaxy, their reputation was legendary. They were conquerors, world breakers, empire builders. Their massive warships, towering crystalline structures capable of folding space like paper, had already forced 217 civilizations to surrender. For most species, resistance wasn't even considered. When the Cabaxians arrived, surrender was simply the logical choice. But on this particular cycle, the Empire's newest target looked almost laughable, a small blue planet. Orbiting an average yellow star dot a world called Earth, Commander Zulthrak stood on the observation deck of the Imperial flagship Devastator, staring at the rotating hologram of the planet before him. His long armored forearms were clasped behind his back in the traditional Cabaxian pose of command. Three glowing eyes studied the tiny world. His mandibles curled in mild disgust. "Earth," he muttered. The words sounded like something unpleasant stuck between his teeth. How has this insignificant mud ball avoided the Empire for so long? Behind him, Lieutenant Gravik shifted uneasily. "Sir, the Galactic Council has designated the Sol system as restricted space." Zulthrak didn't turn around. "Restricted?" "Yes, Commander. Classification extrême danger." For a moment, there was silence. Then Zulthrak made a sound somewhere between a laugh and a choking gargle. "Extreme danger?" He expanded the hologram with a swipe of his claw. 9 planetary bodies appeared around the star. "Well, let's observe the terrifying threat," he said mockingly. 1 mediocre star. 8 planets. Primitive technology. They haven't even colonized their own system. Gravik's skin faded to a worried shade of lavender. "Sir, there are stories." Zulthrak turned slowly. "Stories?" Gravik swallowed. "Some say every species that attempted to invade Earth disappeared." Zulthrak barked out a loud laugh. "Oh, please. Next you'll tell me they were eaten by the phantom void kraken." He waved a dismissive tentacle toward the planet. "The Council is clearly hiding something. Resources, technology, maybe a rare element. Something valuable enough that they don't want the Empire to claim it." Gravik hesitated. "The warning specifically mentions the inhabitants." Zulthrak raised an eyebridge. "The inhabitants?" Gravik pulled up the official council notice. It states, he cleared his throat, "Approach at your existential peril. Humans are problematic." Zulthrak stared for a moment. Then he burst out laughing. "Problematic? That's the best threat the entire Galactic Council could produce." His gill slits flared with amusement. "Sounds like propaganda designed to scare ambitious commanders." He leaned forward, studying Earth more closely. Clouds drifted slowly across its oceans. Cities glittered faintly on the night side. Primitive, small, unimpressive, but Zulthrak felt something ignite deep in his mind. Opportunity. If the Council was wrong, conquering Earth could make him famous across the Empire. "Prepare the intelligence division," he ordered. Gravik blinked. "Sir?" "We begin with observation protocols." Zulthrak's mandibles clicked with finality. "This planet will become my greatest victory." And quite possibly, his eyes gleamed. "My promotion to the Imperial Advisory Council." What Zulthrak didn't realize was that Earth would not become his greatest victory. IT would become his most humiliating lesson. 3 rotations later, an infiltration specialist entered the command chamber. The slender Cabaxian stood perfectly straight. Her skin shimmered metallic blue, the official color of Imperial intelligence. "Infiltration Agent Lixa, reporting for duty, Commander." Zulthrak examined her profile floating in his neural display. Top of her academy class. Master of Adaptive Biology, fluent in 37 alien languages, survived deep cover inside the Rigelian hive mind for 3 full cycles. "Impressive, Agent Lixa," Zulthrak said. "Your mission is simple. Infiltrate Earth. Blend into their population. Study their military capabilities. Find their weaknesses." Lixa nodded calmly. "And my cover identity?" Zulthrak pulled up the file. "Our fabrication division has prepared everything. You will be known as," he paused slightly, "Lisa Chun." Human female. Occupation, travel blogger. Lixa blinked once. A blogger? Yes. Apparently, humans voluntarily broadcast their daily lives to strangers. Lixa processed the information. How efficient. Zolthrak nodded. Your transport departs in one rotation. Observe, report, and confirm what I already suspect. Lixa tilted her head. That humans are harmless? Zolthrak gave a confident smile. Exactly. 3 weeks later, the first transmission arrived. Encrypted, priority level. Zolthrak opened it immediately. Lixa's voice filled the chamber. Commander, my initial assessment is confusing. Zolthrak leaned forward. Explain. These humans are simultaneously the most fragile and most reckless species I have ever encountered. Zolthrak frowned. Fragile? Yes. No exoskeleton. Minimal regenerative ability. Very low radiation tolerance. Their bodies break easily. Zolthrak shrugged. That confirms our assumptions. But Lixa continued. However, I witnessed a human today intentionally jump from a perfectly functional aircraft. Zolthrak blinked. What? For entertainment. They call it skydiving. Silence filled the command deck. Finally, Zolthrak asked, and the human survived? Yes. And when I expressed concern, Lixa paused. They offered to let me try. Zolthrak leaned back slowly. Perhaps humans weren't dangerous after all. Perhaps they were simply ridiculous. But as the next reports arrived, Zolthrak would begin to realize something deeply disturbing. Humans were not afraid of danger. They were addicted to it. The second report from Agent Lixa arrived during the Empire's third meal cycle. Commander Zolthrak opened the transmission while casually reviewing fleet logistics. He expected routine observations, primitive technology, weak defenses, predictable biology. Instead, Lixa's voice sounded unsettled. Commander, I must update my previous assessment. Zolthrak leaned forward. Go on. The aircraft jumping activity I mentioned earlier, yes. It is not limited to trained warriors. Zolthrak frowned. What do you mean? I have observed elderly humans doing it. A pause. Also juveniles. Zolthrak slowly turned toward Lieutenant Gravik. Neither of them spoke for a moment. Then the report continued. I have also documented humans attaching flat boards to their feet and sliding down frozen mountains at lethal speeds. They call this snowboarding. Another pause. They also enter chambers heated beyond survivable biological temperatures. They remain inside voluntarily. Zolthrak blinked. Why? Lixa replied calmly. They call it sauna. Gravik whispered quietly. That sounds like torture. But Lixa wasn't finished. Additionally, humans regularly participate in competitive food consumption events. Zolthrak looked confused. What kind of food? Lixa hesitated. A plant derivative containing a powerful neurotoxin. They call it the ghost pepper. Zolthrak stiffened. How toxic? Lixa replied simply. One participant temporarily lost the ability to breathe. Gravik gasped. Did the others attempt medical intervention? Lixa paused. No, they laughed. And the participant also laughed, while crying and producing excessive moisture. The command deck fell silent. Zolthrak slowly forwarded the report to the Imperial Tactical Division. Attached was a short note. Possible biological anomaly. Investigate human pain response systems. That a week later, another message arrived. This one sounded even stranger. Commander, Lixa began, I have infiltrated the human digital information network. Excellent, Zolthrak replied. What does their strategic data reveal? Lixa hesitated. That is the confusing part. Explain. The majority of their network activity appears to be entertainment. Zolthrak frowned. Entertainment? Yes. Lixa continued. Most of these entertainment programs simulate scenarios where humanity is nearly destroyed. Destroyed by what? Diseases, planetary disasters, giant asteroids, and very frequently, she paused, alien invasions. Zolthrak tilted his head. That sounds like psychological preparation for war. That is what I assumed, Lixa replied. But the reaction of the humans is unusual. How so? They appear to enjoy these scenarios. They cheer when the humans fight back. They celebrate when the aliens lose. Zulthrak sat back slowly. That was strange, but still not alarming. Primitive species often created fictional enemies that IT helped them process fear. Still, something about the report bothered him. Then the final intelligence packet arrived. This one contained actual military analysis. Zulthrak opened it eagerly. AT last. Real information. Real weaknesses. His tactical officer reviewed the data first. Commander, the results are clear. Earth has no unified planetary defense system. Zulthrak smiled slightly. Continue. They possess no orbital weapons platforms. Excellent. Their military forces are divided between multiple territorial governments. Zulthrak's mandibles spread in satisfaction, so they cannot coordinate a global defense. Correct. And their spacecraft? Primitive. The tactical officer turned toward him. They cannot even leave their solar system. Zulthrak let out a pleased hiss. A species too busy fighting itself to defend its planet. He turned toward the command staff. Prepare Phase 2. Lieutenant Gravik looked nervous. Sir. Phase 2. Diplomatic contact. Several officers looked confused. Zulthrak smiled. A peaceful approach allows us to study their leadership structure. And if negotiations fail, his eyes gleamed. We already know their defenses are weak. The order spread across the command deck. Preparation began immediately. But there was one final note attached to the intelligence report, a warning from Agent Lixa. Unfortunately, Commander Zulthrak barely glanced at it. The message read, Commander, despite appearances, something about humans deeply unsettles me. Yesterday, I witnessed a human child repeatedly strike its own finger with a small hammer. Zulthrak frowned slightly as he skimmed the message. The report continued. The child did this to demonstrate pain tolerance to its peers. Afterward, the other children took turns. Zulthrak snorted, juvenile behavior. He closed the report. What he didn't realize was that Agent Lixa had just tried to warn him, because humans didn't just tolerate pain. Sometimes they competed to see who could handle more of it, and soon the Capaxian Empire would learn that lesson the hard way. The Grand Ambassador Drelmok was not pleased. Being awakened from a perfectly comfortable hibernation cycle for what he considered a trivial mission was already irritating. But when he learned the destination, his irritation turned into open contempt. A primitive planet? He scoffed. The enormous Capaxian diplomat adjusted his ceremonial collar, which displayed 14 conquest medals. Each one represented a world that had surrendered peacefully under his negotiations that he was the Empire's greatest. Diplomat. Entire civilizations had joined the Empire simply because Drelmok had spoken to them. And now, they were sending him to Earth on a pre-FDL planet. Hardly worthy of his talents, Commander Zulthrak attempted to sound respectful. Ambassador, this mission is of considerable importance. Drelmaka's gill flaps twitched with annoyance. Why? Because the Galactic Council considers this system dangerous. Drelmok rolled one of his eyes. Dangerous? Yes. The ambassador leaned back lazily. If the planet is primitive, why not simply invade it? Zulthrak allowed himself a small smile. The Council is cautious. A diplomatic visit will allow us to observe their leadership while positioning our fleet. Drelmok sighed dramatically. So I am to greet the locals while you prepare to conquer them. Exactly. The ambassador stood. Very well. If nothing else, I shall enjoy watching them panic. The diplomatic vessel descended toward Earth. Its destination was a large human structure called the United Nations, located in the city of New York. Human governments have been notified of the meeting through encrypted channels. Within hours, Earth's media networks exploded with excitement. Humanity was about to experience its first official alien contact. Across the planet, billions watched the landing live. Inside the diplomatic chamber, human representatives waited nervously. Political leaders from dozens of countries stood together. Cameras flashed constantly. Humans seemed strangely obsessed with recording everything. Ambassador Drelmok stepped forward proudly. His massive frame towered over the humans. Behind him stood the rest of the Capaxian delegation. The humans appeared both nervous and excited as a woman in formal clothing approached. Welcome to Earth, Ambassador. Drelmok nodded politely. We appreciate your hospitality. The woman gestured toward a long table. We have prepared refreshments. The cultural attaché whispered quietly. This is part of human diplomatic tradition. Exchange of food and beverages. Drelmok waved a tentacle dismissively. I have consumed ritual substances from 53 species. Nothing surprises me anymore. He picked up a small cup of dark steaming liquid. This beverage is called coffee, the woman explained. Drelmok drank it without hesitation. Tea tasted bitter, but acceptable. Next he tried the food, small decorative dishes, colorful, some spicy, some sweet. Protocol required him to consume them politely. He did the rest of the delegation. Everything seemed normal. For about 17 minutes. Then, everything went very wrong. What the humans didn't know was that caffeine acts as a powerful hallucinogen in Quebexian biology, and the chemical that makes spicy food hot, capsaicin, temporarily paralyzes part of their nervous system. The first to react was Ambassador Drelmok. He suddenly stopped speaking mid-sentence. His eyes expanded to 3 times their normal size. He slowly turned toward a nearby potted plant. Then he whispered with deep seriousness, "The vegetation is plotting against us." The human delegates exchanged confused looks. Drelmok leaned closer to the plant. "It communicates through interpretive dance." One of his assistants grabbed his arm. "Ambassador, perhaps we should—" Drelmok suddenly ripped off his ceremonial robes. "I'm the eternal vortex." He began spinning in circles. "Behold my gravitational magnificence." The human diplomats stared in stunned silence. Meanwhile, another Quebexian aide began staring at his own tentacles. "My limbs, they are musical instruments." He started slapping them rhythmically while humming loudly. The cultural attaché collapsed face first into a cake. "This dessert is a portal to the 11th dimension." He attempted to crawl into it. All of this was broadcast live across Earth. Within minutes, social media exploded. The hashtag #SpaceHigh began trending worldwide. Back on the Imperial flagship, Commander Zolthrak watched the disaster unfold in horror. On the screen, Ambassador Drelmok was attempting to flirt with a marble statue, while loudly reciting cooking recipes. "Cut the transmission!" Zolthrak screamed. His communications officer panicked. "Sir, the shuttle pilot is currently challenging a vending machine to a duel." Zolthrak slowly collapsed into his command chair. This was a chemical attack. His voice trembled. "The humans planned this." Lieutenant Gravik looked uncertain. "Sir, it appears they are just filming it." Zolthrak stared at the screen. Billions of humans were watching and laughing. For the first time since discovering Earth, Commander Zolthrak felt something unfamiliar. Concern. The diplomatic mission had completely failed. And worse, humans seemed to think the entire event was entertainment. The arena was no longer loud. No cheers. No alien commentators shouting predictions. No confident analysts explaining why humans were harmless. Just silence, a silence so deep that even the massive arena ventilation systems sounded loud. The human stood in the center of the arena floor, not injured, not even breathing heavily, calm. Around him, the creatures that had been meant to prove humanity's weakness were scattered across the battleground. Point one, unconscious. Point one, refusing to approach. One pacing nervously at the far edge of the arena. The crowd of thousands of alien spectators stared. Down at the arena floor, unable to understand what they were seeing. Up in the observation chamber, the council members looked even worse. Point one of them finally spoke. This was not the expected outcome. Another council member leaned forward. "Our analysis classified humans as a low-risk species. Their physical strength metrics were average. Their planetary conditions were survivable. Their technological development was modest." The human representative finally spoke again, and his voice was quiet. "You measure our muscles," he said. The council chamber lights reflected in his calm eyes. "But you never measured the one thing that actually matters." One of the alien analysts asked carefully, "And what is that?" The human smiled again. "Adaptation." Below them, the arena technicians were scrambling. The data from the combat sensors was flooding the system. Heart rate, reaction speed, environmental tolerance, pain response. Every number on the screen was outside predicted ranges. Point one analyst whispered, "That can't be correct. Another zoomed in on the combat telemetry. The human's reaction time increased after each attack. A third analyst stared at the stress readings. His performance improved under pressure. The council chamber fell silent again. The human representative slowly stood up. You invited a human to your academy. He paused. You invited a species that evolved on a death world. One council member frowned. What does that have to do with this? The human walked slowly toward the massive observation window overlooking the arena. Not on the arena floor, the human fighter finally turned and looked up toward the council. For the first time, the alien spectators noticed something unsettling. He was smiling. Not a victorious smile. Not a cruel smile. Just calm. The human representative placed his hand behind his back. Your worlds are stable. Mild climates. Predictable ecosystems. Safe environments. He nodded toward the arena. Earth is not like that. One of the alien scientists pulled up the planetary report again. The numbers suddenly looked very different. Predator density, weather volatility, disease exposure, gravity stress, natural disasters. The scientist whispered, "How did this species survive there?" The human answered before the question could even be asked. "We didn't just survive." He turned slightly toward them. "We adapted." Below them, the arena AI finished processing the final combat analysis. The massive holographic display appeared above the arena. Human Performance Index. UN number kept rising. Higher, 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 until it passed every known species in the Academy database. The alien crowd began whispering, then murmuring, then shouting, because they were finally realizing what had happened. This wasn't a demonstration of weakness. It was a warning point. One of the council members slowly looked toward the human representative. "Why did you allow this demonstration?" The human looked back at him calmly. "You wanted proof." He nodded toward the arena floor. "So we gave you proof." Another council member spoke carefully. "What happens now?" The human representative smiled. "Now?" He glanced toward the rising performance index hovering above the arena. "Now your academy needs to update its classification system." The arena AI finished its calculation. The holographic display changed species classification. The entire arena held its breath. Then the final result appeared. Humanity. Adaptive apex. The crowd erupted. Some in shock, some in fear, some in excitement. But the loudest reaction came from the academy analysts because every prediction model they had built was now wrong. Completely wrong. The human representative walked toward the exit door of the council chamber. Before leaving, he paused. "One more thing." The council members looked at him. "If you ever want to understand humans," he gestured toward the arena, "stop asking how strong we are." He opened the door. "And start asking how many things that try to kill us." The door closed behind him. Down in the arena, the human fighter finally left the battleground, calm, unhurried, like the entire event had been nothing more than a training exercise. High above the arena, the classification system finalized its report, and across the entire Galactic Academy network, a new line of text appeared in the database. Commander Zolthrak sat alone in his private quarters. The events on Earth had shaken him more than any battle ever could. Diplomatic fiasco? Check. Reconnaissance probe lost? Check. Intelligence agent Lixa now fully integrated into human society? Check. And yet, he couldn't stop thinking about the files he'd found in the Galactic Council archives. .17 previous invasion attempts. .17 complete failures. Species ranging from the crystalline Carry Hive to the technologically superior Vadic Empire. All defeated. All humiliated. Some destroyed entirely. Each report had the same chilling note. Humans weaponize everything. Chemicals, microorganisms, sound, light, information, even celestial bodies, and humans laughed while doing it. .3. Sleepless cycles later, Zolthrak made a decision to a last reconnaissance mission. Nothing fancied, NO signals, NO contact. Passive observation only. The Empire's most advanced stealth vessel, the Whisper, was deployed. Its mission: scan Earth defenses, observe military installations, gather intelligence. 6 days passed. Perfect data, primitive weaponry, disorganized military factions, NO orbital weapons. Zulthrak allowed himself a small smile, that on the seventh day, disaster struck. The Whisper's cloak momentarily failed 0.3.7 seconds, 0.3.7 seconds above a human birthday party in Wellington, New Zealand, 27 children, 0.8 adults, and the most advanced stealth technology in the Empire's fleet. Space Pia, shouted the birthday child, pointing to the sky. The adults barely had time to react. Humans did what humans do best. They ignored danger. They celebrated curiosity. They interacted. Within seconds, the Whisper was surrounded. One human inspected the ship. Another took selfies with it. Another draped it with a colorful cloth. Another invited it into the beer tent. By the time the vessel crew realized what was happening, it was inside the crowded structure. 6 humans lifted the 400 kilograms alien vessel, carried it into the center of the convention, and began partying with it. The crew panicked. Emergency protocols activated. The self-destruct sequence initiated. The probe detonated. Cabaxian personnel were harmed. Humans were injured. Just a small portable structure, humans, called a porta-potty, which was destroyed. Humans cheered. They believed it was a special effect. Zulthrak's jaw dropped. They thought our most advanced technology was a toy. Lieutenant Gravik's skin had paled to lavender. Sir, they're improving it. They're sharing the designs. In real time, Zulthrak exhaled slowly. The humans hadn't just survived contact. They had weaponized it. With sticks, stones, and sheer curiosity. The Empire's archives had warned him. The Council's previous failures had warned him, and now he understood. Humans weren't predictable. They weren't weak. They weren't ordinary. They were impossible to classify. 3 cycles later, Zulthrak no longer commanded Imperial fleets. Instead, he founded Extreme Xenotourism Adventures, offering thrill-seekers from across the galaxy carefully controlled human experiences, bungee jumping from volcanic cliffs, ghost pepper endurance contests, volcano hot spring meditation, all of it based on human recreational insanity. On Earth, Agent Lixa, now known as Lisa Chun, had refused extraction. Her official report claimed ongoing mission requirements. The truth, she had gone native, fell in love with humanity's chaotic energy. Her cooking channel, Will It Kill Me?, won its 3rd consecutive Interstellar Broadcasting Award. 1 episode, where she attempted a dish called surstrumming while reciting imperial poetry, broke viewership records across 17 systems. Zulthrak reviewed the quarterly profit reports for his Florida Man Survival Challenge. He reflected, some species are meant to be conquered. Some are meant to be studied. Humans, they are meant to be watched from an extremely safe distance. And perhaps, just perhaps, some species are best appreciated with popcorn in hand. The galaxy would never be the same.